The history of this place is a lot darker than they want us to know. What you need are answers.
Be careful who you trust.
There's a war on the horizon.
This is what we've been training for.
Whatever you're thinking of doing, I'm here.
The final episode. Woohoo! Finally, Bloom gets to meet Rosalind face to face and possibly get some of her burning questions answered. No pun intended. Another question answered, but another one raised. We figure out that the burned ones want Bloom gone because she's a very powerful fairy that could exterminate them, which makes sense because the burned ones are drawing closer and closer to the school. But now I have a question. What the heck are blood witches? In this final episode, we figure out that the real villain is Rosalind and she is a real threat. She deals in half-truths in order to manipulate people to do her bidding, and once she's unleashed, all hell breaks loose. There was some really great acting in this episode from Musa and Tara's father, Professor Harvey. I really felt their performances, so for me, that's an automatic 10,000 cool points. There is a thing going on in this episode where Riven is complimenting Tara and saying she's not a bad person. I really hope that they don't try to pair these two together in the future. I'm not for it at all, and I would be super pissed if they did. Have you guys ever noticed that Bloom always holds her hand down and away from her when she uses her powers? I finally figured out why. It's because she was afraid she was gonna get burned, which is kind of silly when you think about it because you're a fire fairy. You conjure fire powers. I take back everything I said about Moose's character in a previous episode. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong, and I definitely prejudged her. Her powers are actually pretty badass. She can use her powers to take away someone's excruciating pain and comfort them, and also read minds. But with every power, there is a curse aspect to it. When someone is on the verge of death, she can feel them fading away up until their death. That super sucks. Bloom's fairy transformation was an elegant mix of Sailor Moon and Jean Grey's Phoenix. It was pretty cool and had some cool effects. I actually can't wait to see the other fairies' transformations in seasons to come. The CWQs came back with a vengeance, a little too on the nose and very loud once again. The one thing that I really loved about this episode is that they allowed Bloom to go back to her human world and tell her parents about her powers. Plus, get some quality character hangout time with the other fairy friends. I really loved how they allowed her parents scenes to process the information and accept their daughter that they had raised for 16 years. It was really touching and heartfelt. There were several bombshells dropped in this episode, and there were some real doozies. You'll see them when you watch the episode. Now, I'm about to get into a major spoiler, so if you haven't seen episode 6, go watch it and come back, or if you don't care, let's keep it moving. Now, I do have a major problem with how easily Rosalind took out Dowling. A part of me feels like she's faking it because I did see Dowling use her powers right before Rosalind took her out. But it's really hard to tell. I mean, really, she just stood there with her back turned to her enemy and didn't expect her to play dirty. I also find it interesting that Dowling imprisoned Rosalind and pretended that she was dead, but the first chance Rosalind got, she offered her a sabbatical, and when she didn't take it, she murked her and buried her in the ground. I'm excited to see these new actors, and I'm excited to see what future projects they'll be involved in because of this series. I give Fate Winx Saga Episode 6 a 7.5 out of 10. I give the series as a whole a 7.5 out of 10. It's worth a watch if you're interested in the show or shows like this one.